confusing boat markets out there right now. The 25-foot hybrid bay boat. This whole category has just exploded with options, and they all seem to promise you the world, one perfect boat for absolutely everything.
And that really is the big question you've got to ask yourself, isn't it? You're kind of standing at a crossroads. Are you looking for a hardcore fishing machine to go chase trophies, or do you need a comfortable, safe boat for weekends out with the family? The dream, of course. The dream is finding that one boat that can actually do both, without making you compromise.
And that's the tough part. The market is just flooded with these hybrid boats. And if you're just looking at them online or at a boat show, they can all start to look the same. It can feel pretty overwhelming, but don't you worry, that's what we're here for. This explainer is going to cut right through all that noise. We'll use 3 really popular brands to show you the different ways to think about it, so you can find the perfect fit for you.
So, to really get a handle on this market, we're going to look at 3 big names that take really distinct approaches: Tidewater, SeaPro, and Robalo. Think of them less as just brands and more as, well, 3 different philosophies on how to build the perfect bay boat.
First up, you've got Tidewater. These guys are widely known as the value champions. Their whole deal is pretty simple. Deliver a really solid boat with everything you actually need and do it at a price that's hard to beat. Their philosophy is everything you need, nothing you don't. And get this, they include a Seakeeper Ride stabilization system as standard on their bigger boats. That is a huge deal, a feature that's usually a really expensive option.
Okay, then you have SeaPro, and their whole approach is completely different. It's all about what we call vertical integration. Basically, they build almost everything themselves, in-house. From welding the T-tops to stitching the seats, they control the whole process. They're also known for packing their boats with a ton of standard tech, and for this super sharp hull entry that's designed to give you a really dry, safe ride.
And rounding out our group is Robalo, which comes at this from another angle entirely. They position themselves as the premium crossover. They had this long history of building big, tough offshore boats, and you can really feel that DNA on their bay boats. It's all about a heavy-duty, rock-solid feel, a focus on comfort, and a hull built to give you confidence in rougher water. And they back it all up with a lifetime hull warranty.
All right, so where do we start seeing the real differences? Well, the biggest one isn't something you can easily see on the showroom floor. It's something you feel on the water. It all starts below the waterline with the hull design. This is the absolute foundation of how a boat rides, and this is where their philosophies really start to show.
Now, before we get into the weeds, let's quickly talk about a term you're going to hear a lot: dead rise. All it is, really, is the angle of the V on the bottom of the boat, right at the very back. Just think of it like this. A deeper, sharper V is going to slice through choppy water like a knife, giving you a smoother ride. A flatter V, that's going to be more stable when you're just sitting still, and it helps the boat pop up on plane faster. So yeah, that one number tells you a whole lot about what that boat is designed to do.
So this is where it gets really interesting. Check out how Robalo and SeaPro tackle this. Robalo has their V-plane hull. See those flat sections at the back? They act kind of like built-in trim tabs. The result? Crazy stability. It lets the boat float in super shallow water and helps it get on plane with very little bow rise. SeaPro, on the other hand, puts all its focus on that razor-sharp entry at the bow. The whole idea is to just pierce right through the waves, which is what keeps you nice and dry.
And here's where the rubber meets the road, right on the spec sheet. You can see how those different philosophies play out in the numbers. Look at the Robalo, 16 degrees of dead rise, which is great for cutting waves. But because of that special hull design, look at the draft, only 12 inches. That is seriously skinny water for a boat this size. It's really impressive. The SeaPro has a 15-degree dead rise and a 15-inch draft, putting it firmly in that classic, stable bayboat category. And check out the fuel capacity, 90 gallons on the Robalo. That tells you it's got ambitions to go a little further offshore compared to SeaPro 70.
Okay, so we've covered what's happening underneath the boat. Now let's move up top to the deck. And this is where the real battle for every single square inch begins. Seriously, how a builder uses this space, what they choose to prioritize, tells you everything you need to know about that boat's real purpose.
And this quote here just nails that first impression you get when you see them side by side. Now, freeboard is just a fancy word for how tall the sides of the boat are. And with the Robalo, you notice it right away. It's higher. You feel like you're sitting in the boat, not just on it. And that makes a huge difference in feeling safe and secure, especially when the water kicks up.
You want to see the clearest example of fishing versus family? Just look at the bathroom or the head compartment. It tells the whole story. On the SeaPro, you've got this small side door. Why? To keep as much space as possible around the console for fishing. It works, but like the review says, it's a tight squeeze. Then you look at the Robalo. The entire front of the console swings open. It's a huge door. An actual adult can just step right in, no problem. That is the trade-off right there in a nutshell. Pure fishability versus pure family comfort.
And that family-first thinking on the Robalo carries right over to the seating. Up front, the seats are recessed, they're sunk down, so your family feels locked in and safe. The C Pro design is all about that big, flat casting deck, so the cushions just snap right on top of it. It makes for an awesome, massive fishing platform, but it means your family is sitting right on top of the deck, with just a little tiny lip for security. Tidewater's approach kind of splits the difference, giving you comfy seating that you can also pull out pretty easily to get that casting space back when it's time to fish.
So we've talked about the ride, we've talked about the layout. But what about the stuff that's hidden away, the stuff you can't really see? Let's get into build quality, because this is where we see another really cool contrast between C-Pro's hands-on process and Robalo's premium promise.
C-Pro is all about control. Their philosophy is, if we want it done right, we've got to do it ourselves. So they are literally welding their own T-tops, laying their own fiberglass for every little part, molding a custom one-piece rib cage for each boat, and even running their own upholstery shop. It gives them total command over the quality of every single piece that goes into their boats.
And this quote from one of their factory tours, man, it just says it all. You can't really have quality control when you're becoming an assembly line instead of a manufacturer. That's their whole belief system in a nutshell. They don't want to just bolt parts together. They want to build a boat from the ground up.
Now, Robalo's philosophy, it's a little different. Instead of making everything themselves, their focus is on sourcing and using what they believe are the absolute best, most heavy-duty components they can find. And you can feel it. The hardware is oversized. The vinyl on the seats feels thick. The boat just has a substantial feel to it. And they put their money where their mouth is with a killer warranty. And Tidewater? Well, they smartly use proven, reliable parts from trusted suppliers, which is a big part of how they manage to hit that amazing value and price point.
So, after all that, what's the takeaway? What's the final verdict? Well, look, the point of this was never to tell you this boat is the winner. The goal is to give you the tools, a kind of framework to make the right choice for yourself.
It really all comes down to this. You've got two main schools of thought. Let's call them Philosophy A and Philosophy B. Philosophy A is for the person who prioritizes value and getting the most features for the money. You like the idea of a company that builds everything in-house and gives you strong all-around performance. If that's you, you're probably looking at a C-Pro or a Tidewater. Then there's Philosophy B. This is for the person who wants that tank-like premium feel. You put family comfort and safety in rough water at the top of your list, and you're willing to invest in that heavy-duty build and a lifetime warranty. If that sounds like you, well, then you're probably a Robalo person.
Because at the end of the day, the best boat has nothing to do with a spec sheet. It's not about which one is an inch wider or a mile an hour faster. It is way more personal than that. The best boat is the one that just fits. The one that lets you go out and live the life you're dreaming of on the water.
So I want you to do something. Forget the numbers just for a second and ask yourself one simple question. What story do you want to live on the water? Is it a story about the thrill of the chase, rods bent, chasing the sunrise? Or is it a story about lazy afternoons, anchored up with the sound of your family laughing? Answer that question, and I promise you,